welcome in to the Playbook Pundits live stream show here on SiouxCityJournal.com. I'm sports editor Zach James. He's assistant sports editor Shane Lantz. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Friday afternoon, and welcome to the weekend. And it is a jam-packed weekend of football, not only here in the Siouxland, but kind of in the state too. But we do have a loaded weekend full of prep football. Hockey is in town. There's a big shootout. The X's are in the playoffs, so it's a pretty good weekend in the Siouxland, Shane.
Yeah, there's plenty to
do. Yeah.
Like we're super busy. We're gonna get through it, and we'll be just fine.
Yeah, we'll get through it. Coming up in this show, we'll talk about the Metro games going on in the Metro tonight. We'll obviously talk about 3 games in the Siouxland as well as we get you ready for tonight's games here in the Siouxland. There's one game kicking off as we speak in the Metro right now, and that's South Sioux City taking on Lexington over in South Sioux City. South Sioux City suffered a devastating 42-41 overtime loss to Sioux City West last week. Shane, how do you think the Cardinals can kind of bounce back and overcome from that?
Well, I think it's going to be like the biggest challenge they've had yet this season.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying anything bad against West, but losing in an overtime fashion like that that was a game that could have gone either way.
Yeah,
They both said
it literally could have. It came down to a 2-point conversion in overtime.
Nothing would have surprised me. But yeah, just it does definitely sting, I imagine, to lose in that fashion. But yeah, this is going to be the challenge. You got to overcome that, bounce back, and I guess just hope that the players on the field can kind of use that as motivation.
Yeah, and I hope they do, and I know that's a devastating loss, but you're right. I hope they do bounce back from it. They use it as motivation and try and squeak out a win or two here as the season ends. The Minutemen have been outscored 71-13 in the first 2 games, so maybe this is an opportunity for the Cardinals to kind of bounce back and get that, not that, I don't want to say revenge win, but get back on the horse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, like I mentioned, early season, you just kind of got to get all the bumps out of the way, and I guess they're hoping that that overtime loss to West is kind of the biggest bump that they'll have.
If you want to catch that game, it's on the NFHS network going on right now. Just search South Sioux City. It is paywall, so you have to pay a nice little coin for that, but if you want to go watch that, it's on the NFHS. Metrosports.tv tonight will have the game you were covering tonight between Lenox and Dakota Valley in North Sioux City.
Crossing state lines to go play.
Your first assignment in South Dakota.
I know.
Coming up tonight.
I'm excited for it.
It's in North Sioux. Dakota Valley's gotten off to an 0-2 start so far this year. And there's, like I said, in today's story at SiouxCityJournal.com. If you want to see it.
Right there.
Yeah, right there. Dakota Valley's still figuring out the puzzle pieces, and they've had to fill in places, especially on defense, with J.J. Meyer having to sit out because of an injury, and he won't play in tonight's game against Lenox. But what are you learning about the Panthers, and what are a couple keys that you're looking for tonight?
Well, based on what I know about them and from the story that you wrote today, I mean, I know their QB, Ethan Anima, he's a guy that Vandenhol, he is very big into and very has a lot of faith in. Still just kind of a younger guy, but showing the ability to make some plays. And what I'm kind of excited for is seeing who really steps up running back wise. I mean, I think they've had 7 different running backs so far. I mean, Brody Ballinger has 66 yards through 2 games, so they really need to get that running game going.
They do.
Kind of figure out who the horse is going to be, just to keep with the horse puns, I guess. But yeah, I guess that's what I'm looking for, is just seeing what Ethan can do in the passing game, and if that fails, kind of just see who becomes the standout back.
And bouncing off your key there, I think Dakota Valley, I think Dakota Valley just needs to establish your run game. And like Coach Jeff Vandenhoff said, just get 1 or 2 yards every time. The small things will add up, and if they can realize that, if they can get 2 to 3 yards a carry, then that'll add up to some big plays down the line. Will it tonight? I don't know, but it'll add up. And if they stay patient, if they get positive yardage, if they eliminate that negative yardage, I think they'll be fine tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned many times before, 21 new starters.
Yeah.
I mean, none of the guys in the backfield have ever been the go-to guy before. So it's going to take 1 or 2 guys to just finally step up and maybe just 1 or 2 big plays like maybe a 30, 40-yard touchdown run that finally just kind of makes things snap and gets things into gear.
If fans are out and about tonight and they want to follow you, how can they do that?
Well, if they are out and about, they can follow me at Shane M. Lantz on Twitter. Or if you're out at the Dakota Valley football game, I will be wearing this shirt. So feel free to come and say hello. And
Supporting the Mariners.
that's right.
The Mariners green.
I have
Yes,
this too.
Yes,
so.
he's got the Mariners mask with that. I think that's the game of the night in the state tonight. I know there's other really good games going around Iowa tonight, including my high school, Montezuma and BGM and 8-man. But I think that's the game of the week in the state tonight. And that's SBL Harlan. Harlan's number 1 in the state in Class 3A. The Warriors are ranked number 4. This is another big test for the Warriors coming out. But they've responded to Bell the first 2 times. Can the Warriors do it a third time?
Well, when you have Emming, I think you can do pretty much anything, honestly. I mean, he's the guy. You go to him, and he's the one that's able to break big plays against pretty much anybody. So I guess with that and with their quarterback, I have faith that they're going to be able to at least put up a good fight.
And Harlan does have some good players. Tegan Kasperbauer is Harlan's QB. He's 31 for 53 so far in the air. He's got 480 yards, 7 TDs. But like you said, on the other side, they've got the Warriors have Tyler Smith, Jacob Emming, Tyler Schenkelberg on offense. And on defense, the defense has kind of come through for the Warriors too, and they're going to have to tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. If like we've said before, if you want to be a successful team, you need to have a big-time defense. I mean, we saw that last night in the NFL. I mean, you had give a shout-out to Vita Vea, UW grad. So yeah, any guy up front, any big guy on the defensive line make a big difference. So that could be a key for SBL too.
Speaking of the NFL, that was offensive pass interference towards the end last night.
There's quite a few calls that
Yes.
could have been made, but
Yes.
I'm happy with my pick-em so far.
Tom Brady. The game at Olsen Stadium tonight is Des Moines Hoover coming up to town to face Sioux City West. Obviously West, we talked a lot about them over the last week with their monumental win over South Sioux, breaking a 24-game losing streak. But this is the first time since I think first time in 25 games that they had the opportunity to win back-to-back games. They opened the 2017 season by doing so, by winning the first 2 games of the season. I think they win again tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have at least a very good shot. I mean, Hoover is coming off a tough 45-0 loss to Des Moines Christian last week, and on the season they have negative 63 yards.
That's not
rushing.
good.
It could be better, I guess. Negative 63 yards is not what you want, and only 121 passing yards so far. So offensively, they've struggled, and from what Brandon Holmes was telling me for West, their key is their linemen. I mean, offensive and defense. That's where they live. That's where their success is going to come from. Going up against a team with negative 63 yards rushing. I mean, you can't guarantee that you're going to hold any team to a negative yardage rushing wise. But I think they have a very good shot to dominate at the line of scrimmage, and I think West pulls out another win.
There's a Des Moines team coming up here tonight, but there's a Sioux City team going down to Des Moines tonight, and that'll be North taking on North. It'll be North against North tonight, yes.
The Great North.
And the Great North game. And this is the first time the Polar Bears and the Stars have met since 2012, and the Stars won that game back in 2012, but everyone's graduated since that night. So no really past history to go off of here. But the 2 teams are both 1-1. Des Moines North coming off a big win in week 1, kind of ending a pretty big losing streak as well. What do you see in terms of North tonight, Sioux City North, to beat the Polar Bears?
Well, I'm hoping or looking for Carson Strobing to have a good bounce back game. I mean, he had a tough time last week in the 54-0 loss to East that I covered. But going up against Des Moines North, I mean, I know that they're mostly a rushing team. Looking at their numbers, they only have 50 yards passing through 2 games, 303 yards on the ground. So that's another thing. I mean, like with West, I think North is going to have to dominate the line of scrimmage, try and plug up the gaps and keep them from running wild.
Yep, absolutely, and hopefully North can come home with the win. They nearly got one down in Des Moines 2 years ago. I don't remember who it was. I think it was against Roosevelt. Maybe they'll come back home tonight with a nice win against the Polar Bears. Back here in town, Spencer comes to town to face Bishop Heelan at Memorial Field. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff. The Tigers have won the last 4 meetings against the Crusaders, including a 17-point win last year and then a 6-point win in 2019, and I covered the game, I believe, in 2019, and I remember that game just being a ground game, and I think that's what tonight's game is going to be as well. I think you'll see both teams run the ball a lot, and whoever establishes the ground game, I think will come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned last year, Spencer rushed for 321 yards against Heelan. So, like, go back to the recipe for success. I mean, if it worked last time, give it a try this time. I mean, it seems like it's mostly the same group. No one's had Dakota Valley levels of leaving.
Right.
So yeah, if it worked last time, give it a shot this time. I think Spencer has a very good opportunity.
How big of an opportunity is this for Heelan to win a game? I think this is a must-win game for him, or else the season kind of not goes down in shambles, but it's starting to turn the corner into another disappointing season already.
Yeah, I mean, we're week 3 already?
Yeah, we're week 3.
It throws me off because I covered a week 0 game.
You did.
But yeah, this is week 3, so I guess after first 2 couple of losses, you got to kind of check yourself. I mean, I'm a big Ted Lasso fan. I don't know if anyone else is too, but that's something that Coach Lasso always says, is just kind of figure out who you are and who you want to be and go from there. I mean, for Heelan, this definitely is a prove-it game.
Yeah,
so
I think so too.
I think, it's going to be tough, but I think if they want to have a successful year, this is definitely, they at least need to perform well.
Finally, in the Metro calendar tonight, we have East going up to Lamar's, to the ice cream capital of the world, and I think they'll be happy after the game. I think they'll go get some ice cream after the game to celebrate a big win tonight against Lamar's. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, after the 54-0 win last week, I think they're riding pretty high right now. And after watching what their performance was against SBL a couple weeks ago, I have faith that East is going to be able to pull this one out.
3 games that we're looking at in the Siouxland include Siouxland Christian taking on Remsen St. Mary's tonight. Barry Poe will be at that game. I don't know if he'll tweet out updates, but his Twitter is @CJBarryP. Remsen is off to a real good start. Siouxland Christian, meanwhile, is getting back up off his feet after not having a season last year. I think the key for Siouxland Christian is just to keep on improving. I don't think they beat Remsen tonight. I don't even think they stay within 50 of Remsen tonight, but I think the big key for Siouxland is just keep taking baby steps. After not having a season last season, it is a work in progress type of season, but maybe it's more of a work in progress because they are a team that didn't have a year last year. They co-opted with Whiting in 2019. They do this year too, I guess. But it's just one foot in front of the other for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a tough time of it so far. First 2 weeks, they're 0-2. They had losses of 58-6 and 75-14. So the defense definitely has some work. The offense, for that matter, too. Yeah, I don't see them pulling out a win tonight. I mean, you have Cale Ortman for Remsen. He's kind of able to do it all. He's already got 4 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns on the year. So yeah, I see Remsen coming out with a big win. But if Siouxland Christian can just make it respectable, maybe score 20 points, I mean, that'd be a big marker for them right now.
Yep. There is one top 10 matchup in the Siouxland tonight, and that's Central Line George Little Rock taking on West Sioux. Central Line George Little Rock is 0-2, but they are ranked 10th in the Associated Press poll in Class 2A. I did vote for the Lions this week.
I did too.
We both have a vote in the poll out of the 12 sports writers statewide. I put in the Lions because, yeah, they were 0-2, but their 2 losses are to really good teams, Boyden Hull Rock Valley and Sergeant Bluff Luton. Those are 2 teams who may be playing in the Dome in the semifinals in mid-November. Now, granted, I'm sure the Lions want to clean up some things and maybe be 1-1 or even 2-0. But the Lions, this may be a prove-it game for them tonight, honestly. We talked about Heelan having a prove-it game. This may be a prove-it game for the Lions tonight.
I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, 2 very tough teams to open the season. They're going up against West Sioux, so top 10 matchup. It's gonna be tough. I mean, but you've got a guy like Zach Lutmer. He's able to do it all. A guy that rushed for 1,600 yards last year, threw for very nearly 1,200, only 6 yards away from 1,200 yards.
And getting looked at by Iowa State too.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a big weekend for him. I mean, the Cyhawk matchup going on and his game tonight. I mean, yeah, I think you never count him out when you got a kid like that. So,
but on the other side, his counterpart is Dylan Wiggins, and he's having a heck of a year too. 33 passes for 568, 9 TDs. He's one of 6 quarterbacks statewide to have 9 passing touchdowns or more. And
through 2 weeks.
Yeah, through 2 weeks. And I think he's only one two of those 6 guys are 11-man quarterbacks. The other 4 are in 8-man. So that's a pretty big accomplishment for him.
Yeah, I mean I love it when you have 2 dominant QBs like that. I mean it's a lot like not quite last night, but it's kind of a couple years ago when you had was it Peyton Manning going up against Tom Brady. I mean, obviously high school kids, nowhere that level, but 2 dominant passing guys like that, some of the best quarterbacks in the state. I think that's very fun for fans to watch.
You speak of the Cyhawk. Let's talk about that for a couple minutes.
Let's do it.
Iowa faces Iowa State, a top 10 matchup, 3:30 on Saturday on ABC. A few video stations in the area will cover that game as well. We talked about prove-it games. This is Iowa State's prove-it game. Mm-hmm. This is absolutely Iowa State's prove-it game. If they lose this thing, their season's not over. I think they'll make it to the Big 12 title game still, but their chances of making it inside the college football playoff, I think, dwindle. I think the patience for Coach Matt Campbell, I think, dwindles quite a bit if Iowa wins, because I don't think he's ever beaten Iowa. I don't think, maybe even just once. But this is a must-win game for Iowa State. This is the first time since I was a little kid that the Cyclones have had the pressure in this game. It's all usually been on Iowa, since Iowa has won most of the games in this series since 2000. I know Iowa State has won, but they haven't had that pressure that they have right now. Iowa State has the pressure in this game. They're at home. They're wearing black jerseys. College game day is there in the morning.
It's the first top 10 matchup.
First top 10 matchup in this rivalry. This is the must-win game for Iowa State on the schedule. And they barely beat UNI last week. Mm-hmm. So
they got something to prove tomorrow.
Yeah, they have something to prove. Iowa has nothing to lose if they lose tomorrow. Absolutely nothing, because they're still in the driver's seat in the Big Ten West after Penn State beat Wisconsin last week. Mm-hmm. Iowa has nothing to lose. They can go and lose free. Iowa State will be the one with the target on their back, and I think that's why Iowa wins tomorrow. I think Iowa wins 28-18.
See, I'm going to flip that. I think Iowa State wins tomorrow because they have something to prove, like we mentioned. I mean, they've got the college game day. This is their time to shine. I mean, even if Ashton Kutcher is going to be the game day picker, I still think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. For some reason in my heart, I feel like Iowa State's going to come out with this one based on just the energy that I've seen and based on the game last week. They're mad. They wanted to win by more. So I see them putting up a real fight. I think they come out with it.
I think Iowa State just comes out slow tomorrow. I just do. I think Brock Purdy just comes out slow. I don't think he'll get pulled, and Hunter Deckers will come in. I don't think it'll get that drastic, but I don't think Purdy has a good day, and I think that kind of equates to a loss for the Cyclones. But we'll see what happens there. It's a 3:30 kick, probably the biggest game in the country in terms of all of college football, and I'm excited for it. I'll be listening in here in the office while tracking some small college football games, including Morningside taking on Doane, Briar Cliffs on the road at Concordia, Dort's taking on Hastings, and Northwestern is taking on Midland. So we'll track and follow all those games. USC also has their home opener tomorrow against Northern Arizona. So it's like we said, the Open. It's a loaded weekend, not only of football, but also baseball and hockey too. So we'll have that all for you at SiouxCityJournal.com coming up in Sunday's edition of the Journal. And of course, we'll have more in Monday's edition of the Journal as well.
And let's touch real quick too. You mentioned baseball. Sioux City Explorers won their wild card game the other night. They're going up against Kansas City tonight and tomorrow in KC. They come back for possibly the final home game of the year. We'll see on Monday. Going up against first place Kansas City. This is the South Division semifinal, so they're only 6 wins away from being the American Association champs. I think it's tough going up against Kansas City. I mean, the team that won the division by I think it was 12 or 13 games. But yeah, you got Jose Sermo and Lane Milligan the other night. Both hit home runs for that 4-0 win.
Chase Harris getting Defensive Player of the Year.
Chase Harris getting Defensive Player of the Year. Jose Sermo getting All-Star third baseman. So yeah, if you're a baseball fan, tune into that. I mean, we'll have there's going to be watch parties the next 2 nights at Mercy Field, and then you can catch them like we mentioned Monday, that home game. So yeah, I think a lot to look forward to for baseball fans.
Absolutely, baseball season's not done, and I know as
Not
a baseball
quite.
fan, you're happy about that, and I'm a baseball guy too. So more baseball here in Iowa. That's never a bad thing.
Never.
For Assistant Sports Editor Shane Lantz, I'm Sports Editor Zach James. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you on Tuesday for the Playbook Pundits regular show. In the meantime, have a great weekend.